The world watched in stunned silence as the news broke. Federal judge slaps Elon Musk with $500 million fine. Flashing across every major news network, from Fox News to CNN, the headline sent shockwaves through the business and political worlds alike. Twitter exploded with reactions, some celebrating, some outraged, and some just plain confused. What could Elon Musk, the billionaire maverick behind Tesla, SpaceX, and X, formerly Twitter, have possibly done to deserve such a historic fine? The case had been simmering quietly in the background for months. It involved a massive contract between SpaceX and a government agency where Musk was accused of breaching certain disclosure terms Musk's legal team called bureaucratic nonsense designed to punish innovation. The judge, Harold Whitmore, a man known for his stern demeanor and establishment ties, had finally rendered his verdict. In a packed federal courtroom in Washington, D.C., Whitmore didn't just read the ruling, he lectured. Cameras caught every word as he droned on about accountability, unchecked power, and the dangers of billionaires believing themselves above the law. Then came the bombshell. Mr. Musk is hereby fined $500 million. Payment is due within 30 days. Musk sat silently at the defense table, his face unreadable. No smirk. No protest. Just a quiet, calm stare directed at the judge as if memorizing every word for future use. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Analysts speculated that this could be the beginning of the end for Musk. His enemies celebrated online. Politicians who had long despised his rebellious attitude towards regulations called it a victory for the rule of law. But Musk remained silent. No tweets. No press conferences. Not until that night. At precisely 8 p.m., as millions of Americans were glued to their TVs, Elon Musk posted a video. No flashy edits. No music. Just Musk sitting at his desk in a plain black t-shirt, looking straight into the camera. His first words? When history looks back at today, they'll laugh at the people who thought they could stop progress with a piece of paper. The video instantly racked up tens of millions of views. But he wasn't done yet. Over the next 5 minutes, Musk methodically destroyed the judge's credibility, exposing ties between Whitmore and a network of Washington lobbyists who had long resented Musk's rise. He revealed how Whitmore's family had stakes in oil and gas companies, industries that Musk's clean energy businesses were actively disrupting. You think this was about justice? Musk said, leaning forward. It was about fear. Fear that innovation will tear down the cozy empires built by people who think they're entitled to rule forever. By the end of the video, Musk wasn't just defending himself, he was rallying the public. #StandWithMusk started trending worldwide within minutes. And the establishment realized they hadn't just fined a billionaire. They had poked a sleeping giant. The next morning, Washington woke up to chaos. Cable news anchors couldn't keep up. Every few minutes, new clips, new reactions, new polls flooded the screens. One thing was crystal clear. Musk's video had hit a nerve. Polls showed 67% of Americans agreed with Musk that the system was rigged against disruptors. Even people who didn't particularly like Musk found themselves defending him, arguing that no judge should wield that much unchecked power. Meanwhile, prominent politicians jumped into the fray. Senator Josh Hawley called it a shameful abuse of judicial authority. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene went even further, tweeting, "First they came for Trump. Now they're coming for Musk. Who's next?" Even Robert F. Kennedy Jr., known for being a wild card, said, "Elon represents freedom. This is about more than money. It's about who controls the future." Suddenly, this wasn't just about a fine anymore. It had become a national referendum on power, innovation, and freedom. But the real shock came when Musk announced his next move during a live stream titled Operation Phoenix. With millions watching, Musk dropped the bombshell. He was pulling SpaceX's entire government contract operations out of Washington, D.C., and relocating them to Austin, Texas. Furthermore, he would fund a new political action committee, PAC, focused on supporting candidates across both parties who stood for innovation, free enterprise, and decentralization of federal power. The PAC's name? The New Frontier. "They wanted to fine me $500 million, Musk said, smiling slightly. "Let's see how they like it when we move $500 billion worth of innovation out of their backyard." The DC establishment recoiled in horror. Analysts immediately began projecting billions in lost revenue, thousands of lost jobs, and irreparable damage to Washington's already crumbling reputation as the center of technological influence. Panic set in among defense contractors, bureaucrats, and lobbyists. Meanwhile, Musk wasn't finished. He made another chilling statement during the stream. "And to Judge Whitmore, thank you. You didn't find me. You freed me." Across social media, Americans, from farmers in Iowa to tech workers in Silicon Valley, rallied around Musk's new movement. Old political divides blurred. Red states, blue states, it didn't matter. It was now the innovators versus the establishment. Whitmore's office issued a sterile statement defending the ruling, calling Musk's attacks baseless and inflammatory. But it was too late. His credibility was in shreds. Investigative journalists dug deeper, finding even more questionable financial entanglements in his past. Some whispered that impeachment proceedings against Whitmore might even be possible. The stakes had never been higher. In less than 48 hours, what started as a legal slap had turned into a full-blown national uprising. And Elon Musk? He was just getting started. While Washington tried to contain the explosion Musk had set off, the rest of the world was paying very close attention. Within 24 hours of Musk's Operation Phoenix announcement, major tech hubs like Dubai, Singapore, and Zurich sent out formal invitations to SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and X. They didn't mince words either. A headline from the Singapore Times read, "Elon, bring your innovation here, no strings attached." Meanwhile, European regulators who had often butted heads with Musk in the past suddenly went silent. Some insiders whispered that even Germany's economic ministry was working behind the scenes to propose a Musk freedom zone, an area where his companies could operate with minimal interference. America's adversaries noticed too. China's state media tried to bait Musk, publishing editorials like, "Washington fears what it cannot control. Mr. Musk, perhaps you should consider a true global future." Of course, Musk ignored them. He wasn't playing into any dictatorship's hand. He was fighting for freedom, not selling it. Meanwhile, back in the United States, Judge Whitmore realized his position was crumbling fast. His chambers became a fortress. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse every day waving signs. "Innovation is not a crime. Down with judicial tyranny. We are the new frontier." In secret, a high-level emergency meeting was called at the White House. It included top Justice Department officials, economic advisors, and congressional leaders from both parties. The main topic? How do we stop Elon Musk? Some argued for doubling down, slapping more lawsuits, freezing assets, squeezing regulatory agencies onto his companies. Others warned this would only make him a martyr and further erode the government's standing with the American people. Then, out of nowhere, a senior advisor made a chilling suggestion. What if we revoke SpaceX's launch licenses for U.S. soil? If he can't launch rockets here, he'll come crawling back. There was a heavy, uncomfortable silence in the room. Someone muttered, "That's nuclear." Someone else said, "If we do that, we lose the entire future of American space dominance." The president reportedly ended the meeting grimly, saying, "We're in uncharted territory now. Tread carefully." But Musk, as if sensing the storm brewing, decided to make another move, one nobody expected. During an unscheduled live stream titled The Great Expansion, Musk announced that SpaceX would be building the largest private launch facility in the world. On an island off the coast of Texas, purchased entirely with his personal funds. No federal land. No federal money. No federal oversight. The facility would be called Freedomport. And he didn't stop there. Musk added that he would be inviting other innovators banned, harassed, or suppressed by bureaucratic overreach to base their operations at Freedomport as well. "They thought they could find me into submission," Musk said, smiling confidently. Instead, they lit the fuse for a revolution. Freedomport would have its own infrastructure, its own energy grid, solar powered by Tesla, its own internet powered by Starlink, and even its own local governance based on a radical transparency model. It was the first step towards building a private, innovation-first society right on American soil, independent from Washington's grasp. Within hours, hundreds of tech founders, scientists, and even famous engineers pledged their support. Some even offered to relocate immediately. The establishment's worst nightmare was coming true. And Musk? He was just warming up. Freedomport rose faster than anyone predicted. In just 3 months, Musk and his team had transformed the once deserted island into a bustling hub of innovation. Landing pads gleamed under the Texas sun. Massive solar farms powered factories working 24/7. Starlink satellites provided blazing-fast internet. Engineers, coders, physicists, and dreamers flooded in, building what some were already calling the new Silicon Valley. It wasn't just Americans either. Talent from around the world, from disillusioned French AI researchers to Japanese robotics experts, showed up at Freedomport, drawn by the promise of pure, unshackled innovation. Freedomport had its own unofficial motto: invent, build, launch, repeat. But the establishment wasn't going to let it succeed without a fight. Behind closed doors, DC officials led by none other than Judge Whitmore's allies hatched a desperate plan. Operation Chokepoint. The goal was simple. If they couldn't stop Musk through the courts, they'd starve Freedomport of resources, restrict shipments of critical materials, pressure banks to deny financing, launch environmental lawsuits accusing Musk of eco-destruction despite Freedomport being 100% green, weaponize federal agencies to bog down suppliers with audits and inspections. Within days, Freedomport's supply lines tightened. Equipment deliveries slowed. Contractors pulled out under government pressure. Rumors spread that SpaceX launches would be blocked internationally if they didn't comply with Washington's orders. Musk didn't flinch. He went live on X, addressing America directly. They tried to fine me $500 million to break me. They tried to smear me to silence me. Now they're trying to starve out the dreamers. But history is very clear about one thing. Tyrants always lose. Always. Freedom isn't a request. It's a birthright. We will not back down. We will build. We will launch. And when they come knocking, we'll greet them with rockets, solar panels, and courage. The video shattered records: over 200 million views in 24 hours. Across America, protests exploded in support of Musk and Freedomport. #StandWithFreedomport trended for days. Truckers organized convoys to bring supplies directly to Freedomport, defying government restrictions. Even some governors, especially from Texas, Florida, and South Dakota, openly declared they would protect Freedomport from federal overreach. Innovation doesn't belong to Washington, Governor Ron DeSantis thundered at a rally. It belongs to the people. And we will defend it with everything we've got. The situation became so volatile that the FBI reportedly discussed whether Freedomport was veering into insurrection territory. Judge Whitmore, desperate to regain control, made one final move. He signed an emergency federal order labeling Freedomport a national security threat and authorized federal marshals to seize the facility under the pretense of protecting critical aerospace infrastructure. The news sent shockwaves across the country. Cable news anchors stuttered live on air. Social media went nuclear. Everyone knew. If federal agents moved on Freedomport, it could ignite the biggest political and social uprising since the founding of America itself. And Elon Musk? As federal helicopters circled the Texas skies, he sent out one final cryptic message. We anticipated this. And we're ready. Welcome to the final frontier. The stage was set for a showdown that would reshape America forever. The morning air at Freedomport was thick with tension. Federal helicopters loomed on the horizon. Marshals in black tactical gear loaded into trucks at the mainland dock. Cable news played the same footage on loop. Federal agents prepared to seize Freedomport. Inside the SpaceX command center, Elon Musk stood calmly, overlooking massive screens flashing satellite feeds, news reports, and internal communications. His top executives looked worried. One finally spoke. Elon, we have minutes before they land. Orders. Musk smiled, that same mischievous, defiant grin that had become iconic. Initiate Project Liberty. A few keystrokes later, Freedomport came alive. Massive steel blast doors hidden beneath the landing pads slammed shut, sealing off critical infrastructure. Cameras live-streamed the entire operation to the world through Starlink. Across America, tens of millions of citizens glued to their phones and TVs watched in awe as Freedomport transformed into a fortress. Then came the masterstroke. Musk had filed an emergency injunction in the Texas Supreme Court hours earlier, claiming the federal seizure was unconstitutional, violating private property rights, the First Amendment, and several aerospace treaties. Because Freedomport was built entirely without federal funds and on privately owned land, the legal argument was airtight. And the best part? The Chief Justice of Texas, seeing the gravity of the situation, had already issued a temporary stay against any federal action until a full hearing. Meaning, if the marshals proceeded, they would be breaking the law. Live on television, the commanding federal officer received the notification via radio. You could see the panic flicker across his face. Should they proceed and risk the biggest constitutional crisis in modern American history? Or back down and admit defeat? Meanwhile, Elon Musk appeared live on X with one final message. To Judge Whitmore, to the federal agencies trying to kill the American dream, I have one message. You lose. The people are awake. The courts are awake. Freedom wins. Welcome to the new era. The federal convoy turned around. The helicopters retreated. Freedomport stood unchallenged. Across America, the crowds erupted in celebration. Fireworks lit up the skies in Texas, Florida, Ohio, South Dakota, wherever people had watched Musk defy the full weight of Washington. And Judge Whitmore? His reputation lay in ruins. Within a week, an ethics probe was launched into his handling of the Musk case. Lawmakers from both parties called for his resignation. Editorials from conservative and liberal outlets alike shredded him as a symbol of everything broken in American governance. Facing mounting pressure, Whitmore resigned in disgrace, a shattered relic of an old order swept away by innovation and public will. Meanwhile, Musk declared Freedomport a permanent home for builders, dreamers, and rebels. We don't ask permission to create the future, he said during the opening ceremony. We just build it. In the months that followed, new tech breakthroughs emerged daily from Freedomport. SpaceX achieved the first commercial Mars supply mission. Tesla unveiled a revolutionary new energy grid independent of traditional utilities. X launched FreedomNet, a social media platform governed by user-voted transparency rules. But perhaps the biggest victory was cultural. People realized they didn't have to wait for permission to chase greatness. They realized that one man, backed by millions of free minds, could challenge even the mightiest empires and win. The $500 million fine? It became a badge of honor, a reminder that courage isn't cheap but worth every penny. In the end, Elon Musk didn't just beat a corrupt judge. He sparked a second American revolution. Not of muskets and cannons, but of ideas, courage, and innovation. A revolution that reclaimed the final frontier. The freedom to dream.